If I can't keep my head held high enough, I'll just speak love and watch the smiles come, bring my spirits up. There's some shit I like to fix, but I still know that I'm blessed.
Welcome back to my coverage of Kristin Smart. You'll hear the common tone as we hear from Kristin's family today, from the district attorney, from the sheriff, and from the community. The work is not done is the common thread. We still need to bring Kristin home so she can be buried with dignity and respect, not dumped wherever they put her.
Team and the Smart family were present. It started with District Attorney Dan Dow and said after more than 26 years, justice was delivered for Kristin Smart. The Smart family provided a statement. Kristin Smart's dad, Stan Smart, provided a statement on behalf of the Smart family.
As we all know, we received split verdicts on Tuesday, October 18th of 2022 in the Kristin Smart trial. Paul was found guilty of first-degree murder and Ruben was found not guilty. For many of us, especially locals, our hearts are always with Kristin and her family. Let's hear Stan Smart, Kristin's dad. And I'm sure this is bittersweet for them. One, because what it all really means that Kristin's dead and gone, and they'll never see her again. We still need to find her. That's the unfinished piece to the puzzle. Wait till the end of the speech because Denise, Kristin's mother, also makes her own brief statement, and she directs her gratitude to the community, and she says the sweetest thing. Bless her.
At this moment, Kristin Smart's father, Mr. Stan Smart, would like to make a statement on behalf of the family. I'd like to tell you that the family will not be taking any questions, and we ask that you please respect their privacy at this time. Mr. Smart.
Thank you. I'd like to make a comment that my wife and I we discussed and briefly, and obviously you all recognize this. Without Kristin, there is no joy or happiness in this verdict. After 26 years with today's split verdicts, we learned that our quest for justice for Kristin will continue. This has been an agonizingly long journey with more downs than ups, but we are grateful and appreciate the diligence and energy of the two juries to thoroughly review the facts and reach their decisions. Our faith in the justice system has been renewed by their commitment and effort. We feel fortunate to have relied on the professional talents and the commitment of the Deputy District Attorney Chris Prevel, District Attorney Dan Dow, Beth Raub, our victim witness advocate, and paralegal Becky Crippy, and the stellar team of the San Luis Obispo County District Attorney's Office. We would also like to acknowledge Sheriff Ian Parkinson, Detective Clint Cole, District Attorney and Investigator J.T. Kemp, and the San Luis Obispo Sheriff's Office for their tireless commitment to making Kristin a priority. The steadfast efforts of this team and so many others ultimately made these trials possible. Finally, we are also thankful for the selfless contributions of Chris Lambert, his Your Own Backyard podcast, which brought not only new information, and also the needed light, for the attention during our darkest moments, sharing Kristin's voice and story. Our family is comforted and strengthened by the knowledge that Kristin continues to be held in the hearts and memories of so many people. We will never be able to personally thank everyone, but please know our gratitude and love goes out for each of you who have been with us for this long, overwhelming, and emotional journey. We're forever stronger together. Most importantly, To our Kristin, almost 3 decades ago, our lives were irreparably changed on the night you disappeared. Know that your spirit lives on in each and every one of us. Every day, not a single day goes by that you aren't missed, remembered, loved, and celebrated. Thank you.
I'm just going to briefly add my appreciation to everyone that my husband spoke about and to each person who has been the wind beneath our wings to get us to this day. Thank you so much.
Without Kristin, there is no joy or happiness in this verdict.
Our hearts and prayers continue to be with Kristin's loving family, Stan and Denise. We are grateful to have had your support and your trust to serve you in bringing justice for Kristin. Also with me today, I have the rest of Kristin Smart's family, her brother Matt and her sister Lindsay, and their spouses are here. San Luis Obispo County Sheriff Ian Parkinson is here to my right, and our prosecution team is led by Deputy District Attorney Christopher Prevrell, Assistant Chief Investigator J.T. Camp, San Luis Obispo County Sheriff's Senior Detective Clint Cole, and Assistant District Attorney Eric Dobroth. We are very grateful to Sheriff Ian Parkinson. Since he was elected and sworn into office in January of 2011, he had a renewed commitment and prioritization of solving Kristin Smart's murder. And we are grateful for every detective, every Sheriff's Office personnel who spent years on this case to bring us to where we are today. The Sheriff's Office has demonstrated incredible resolve as they have led this incredible and complicated investigation. Their tireless search for sufficient evidence is what has brought us to this point today, where we have finally achieved justice for Kristin and our community. Sheriff Parkinson.
As we hear from the sheriff, he, as the rest, continue to mention our community. It's really hard to explain how connected we are to this case, almost like she's our sister, our friend, our daughter. You'd have to experience it to understand. As heartbreaking as it's been, I'm glad I'm a part of it. The sheriff talks about how he's extremely pleased with Paul's guilty verdict. He's disappointed that Ruben was acquitted, but it doesn't temper his profound gratitude for Paul's verdict. He thanked the DA's team, the law enforcement, the jury for the successful resolution with the right, just verdict. He thanks the Smarts for their patience. He straight up said there is no true justice till she's found. He officially said he's committed and that this investigation is not closed until they find Kristin. Side note, that made me feel hopeful. He hopes to bring some closure for the Smarts, peace to our community, and justice once and for all for Kristin. So let's hear his full comments at the press conference now.
Point today, where we have finally achieved justice for Kristin and our community. Sheriff Parkinson.
You know, I want to begin just to bring up the most important people in this room, and that is the Smart family. So I had the honor of meeting them in 2019 prior to taking office for the very first time, and we discussed their daughter, Kristin. And I was around in the county and law enforcement at the time Kristin disappeared, and I could only imagine what they had gone through. They were still extremely committed and really faithful, or had faith that we would get to the bottom of this and bring those responsible. And they maintained that throughout my tenure in this position. You know, we talk about justice and closure. The reality is there is some form of justice today. holding the person responsible. However, that doesn't change the fact that their daughter at 19 disappeared and was murdered. And they don't have the opportunity to see her graduate from Cal Poly, be married, have grandchildren for them. So every year that goes by, they continue to suffer for this loss. I committed to them before, and I remain committed that even though Paul was convicted today, this case is not over. This case will not be over until Kristin is returned home. And we have committed to that from the beginning, and I remain committed to that fact that we don't take a breath, we do not put this aside, we continue to pursue this until we bring Kristin home to the family. And that I remain committed to. I would also like to thank the jury. 3 months is a very long time to be on a jury. The commitment for them, I just can't imagine. I can't imagine the commitment from the investigative team. 3 months away from their home, away from their families, up here working tirelessly every week, lucky to go home on weekends. I just admire them. But the jury has a job, and they did that job today. And I think it's really important. I'd also like to thank Monterey County. This is a San Luis case, obviously, and was transferred to Monterey County. The court system, the district attorney's office, the sheriff's office has been phenomenal for all of us, and they deserve a big thank you. The district attorney mentioned about the investigative team. I would like to thank our district attorney for moving forward with the courage to prosecute a complicated case. This was not a simple case. 26 years had passed. And I commend the DA for moving forward with this. Chris Lambert, our all-star, truly is a phenomenal attorney and a phenomenal human being, and really led this case through the court system and deserves a tremendous amount of credit. JT Camp, a DA investigator, by the way, used to work for the sheriff's office. Phenomenal job working this case as well, hand in hand with Chris. I have actually two investigators that worked this case here. Chief Deputy Nate Paul in the back of the room worked this case before Detective Cole and did a great job. And then, of course, there's Detective Cole, who took this case and worked his tail off to develop and identify evidence in this case that ultimately brought it to trial, and deserves the credit for his hard work. I'm a little biased, but I have a phenomenal investigative team, and Clint is part of that team. And then last, to Eric Dobroth, of course, the DA's assistant, who has been involved in this for several years now and has been extremely supportive and willing to help us. I would just like to close and say that I appreciate all the community support. What this does for the community has been tremendous. The ability to have some form of justice to them is really second to the family. They have been living this for 26 years themselves. Some have far left the area years before and now have still followed it and still support the Smart family. And so this is justice for them, for them to understand that the conviction means a tremendous amount. So thank you for being here.
It's wonderful to hear this team on the other side of victory after all their very hard work. I mean, we're talking 26 years of putting this puzzle together, And finally, we have justice.
Dan Down then spoke and gave credit to the prosecution team for their efforts.
Today's guilty verdict provides some sense of justice for Kristin, the Smarts, and for our community.
This case is not over. This case will not be over until Kristin is returned home.
The Sheriff's Department also gave credit to Chris Lambert for helping identifying new witnesses, and ultimately the department's goal is to end sexual violence. Deputy District Attorney Chris Pouverel said he was disappointed to hear Ruben Flores' verdict. However, he said he was satisfied with Paul Flores' verdict. Parkinson said the job is still not done and will continue to search for Kristin Smart.
Those of you who have followed the case all the way back to the preliminary hearings probably remember one of the numerous motions for mistrial that Sanger tried to do was related to the necktie color, and how purple was inappropriate because it showed too much solidarity with Kristin's family. Well, guess what, guys? Do you see what color ties everybody's wearing? The district attorney, Kristin's dad, and many more purple ties in the room, and Sanger can't say crap about it.
I really feel like this is a day to recognize a community effort. Just about the entirety of SLO County collaborated to make this day happen. And this is a prosecution that our community can be proud of.
Cal Poly is forever marked by this tragedy. I appreciate all the healing as it pertains to Kristin and her family with Cal Poly over these years. It was rough for some time, but I love how each generation of students remember Kristin. Let's hear from some of them. Kristin is part of Cal Poly, and all who attend know of her. Joelle doesn't agree with Ruben's not guilty verdict, but she's excited about Paul. She said it's a long time coming. Many students weren't satisfied with Ruben's verdict. Molly feels Ruben is obviously an accessory. She felt the unanswered questions for Kristin's family and community all these years is appalling. That's the perfect word for it, in my opinion, appalling. The sentiment throughout the community is that Ruben got away with his crimes. It does suck, but like I said, Paul was proven to be a dangerous predator. He's not fit to walk amongst us, in my opinion.
Acknowledge that the struggle for Kristin, the Smart family, and all survivors is not over. Kristin is missed every single day. Gender and power-based violence still pervades our community at concerning rates. Let us never again let a family live in 26 years of agony. Let us never forget the name Kristin Smart, and let her rest in peace.
I have a little bit of a chill, not just because it's fall, but the goosebumps I get thinking about, as an alumni, what it was like when we heard the news about Kristin. And then the goosebumps that I get now having a 23-year-old and an 18-year-old children, what it must have been like for the Smart family. And on behalf of the Smart family, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you all for coming out tonight and keeping Kristin and her family in your hearts. And we need to keep her there, because we're not done. This group has embraced Kristin and the truth of her story since the beginning. The way all of you have embraced her memory has been incredibly healing to the Smart family in more ways than I can even speak. You all have taken away so much of the pain that has been such a part of the Smart family for decades. The Smarts want to share their immense gratitude for the incredibly committed sheriff's team and stellar prosecution team that helped bring and is keeping Paul Flores in jail behind bars. This community has been the wind beneath her wings, and the way she gets through every single day is the love that she feels from all of us, from friends, from community, and from all of you in Cal Poly. So thank you so much. Please stay safe, and we've got more to do. Onward.
Remember how Bobby fixed up Kristin's little memorial there at Cal Poly? It was in a little bit of disrepair. Well, it looks like he did it just in time because it was utilized for the memorial and for the celebration. And look at all the beautiful things that have been added. More flowers and candles and notes and photographs, all remembering dear sweet Kristin Denise Smart. I've admired James Murphy, the Smart's family attorney, for years. He's another hero in this case. He has stood by the family and always shows courage and strength in the face of this, what many locals consider a scary, evil family. One of the things Mr. Murphy said after Paul's guilty verdict was that he doesn't have a millionth of an ounce of empathy for Paul. The billboard that you always see sits in front of the Murphy's law office in the village of Arroyo Grande, only blocks from Susan's home. It looks likely that Ruben's legal problems aren't over, and Susan, along with her boyfriend Mike, may also see their day in court. Civil court this time. Mr. Murphy says the sense of loss was pounded into the Smarts one more time. They're grateful to Paul's jury for the verdict against Paul, but they are, of course, upset that Ruben was found not guilty. He said that was disturbing to them. He said in a recent conversation with Stan Smart that Stan is interested in pursuing the civil suit, but they still need to sit down and talk about it. Back in 1997, Mr. Murphy filed a wrongful death suit against Paul. Then in April of 2021, Murphy filed an intentional infliction of emotional distress suit against Ruben, Susan, and Mike, Susan's boyfriend. That suit is pending. The suit alleges that Ruben, Susan, and Mike participated in a scheme to remove Kristin's body. And unfortunately, they spelled Kristin's name wrong here again. I hate it when they do that. It's probably from autocorrect. So they removed her body from Ruben's home. And Mr. Murphy says it will take a few months to move forward if that's what the Smarts decide to do. One of my favorite things Murphy said after the verdict was that he will work to hold the Flores family accountable and responsible for what they did to the Smart family until the day he dies. It wasn't just the murder Paul committed, but all the years of what the Flores family continued to do to make it all so much worse. Even the way they spoke about Kristin and the way they spoke to her family. It's frickin' disgusting. Now let's hear from Ruben and his attorney, Harold Misick. I gotta warn you, this interview irritated me. Ruben's relieved for himself, but he's worried about Paul. He's been having to worry about Paul his whole entire life. So let's see some of what Ruben has to say here.
So a lot of made up things and a lot of stories there. When you look, and it's hard for me to describe it, all that stuff they say is evidence. You look through it, and there is no evidence against anybody, me or Paul. There wasn't any time, and just too much made-up stuff. That's all I can say. And it's too bad that sometimes the system works that way on feelings instead of facts, So, but I am relieved, and I'll worry about my son, of course.
Mr. Flores, any comments for the family, the victim's family?
Yeah, I feel bad for him because they didn't get no answers about what happened to their daughter. And we don't know what happened to their daughter. So then like I said, I feel sorry for her.
What was your reaction when you learned your son was found guilty?
I don't know. I was just holding on, that's all.
Are you going to say you're shocked?
A little bit.
Mr. Misick, this is a big case for you. Is this the biggest case you've won? Or taken on?
No. But it's the one I've been most invested in on a personal level. Because as you might remember what I said at the very beginning in this case, this man is not just not guilty, he's absolutely innocent. And today's verdict proved that. So, you can quibble with me on the words there, but he never should have been charged. And I'm very pleased with the outcome. Love our system of justice. Jury is what it is. Jury has absolute power to say whatever they want to say. But in this particular case, they said not guilty, and I think that's the right verdict. So,
What do you plan to do for the rest of the day? What are you doing next?
I don't know.
what are we doing?
No, I don't know. I have no idea. Just stop and sit.
Any messages to our Rio Grande community?
Well, you know, I'll speak on his behalf here. It would be nice if the community would actually honor the presumption of innocence. If you go online like I do frequently, or get the comments forwarded to me, like my phone's blowing up right now, there is just so much animosity towards this man, his family.
Yeah, because the way they acted.
I really have never understood it. I understand that people are upset that Kristin is missing. I understand they want a person to be responsible for that. But the let's lynch him, let's burn him, let's hang him, let's kill him. I don't know where that comes from.
That's ridiculous. No one's ever laid a hand on him.
The community who still feels that way would disabuse themselves of those feelings. So,
What's your reaction just to the mixed verdicts and the fact that one jury found there was enough evidence, another found there was not?
I think in this case there's been a real lust for vengeance. I think, like I said in my closing argument, there is a reasonable inference to be drawn that Kristin might still be alive out there somewhere.
Jeez.
We never proved her death, by the way, if you'll go through the record. Mixed verdicts happen. This is my first dual jury trial ever, so I guess I'm surprised at that, but I'm relieved at the outcome. I think it's the absolute right and just outcome, certainly the lawful outcome, so he's free to go.
Mr. Flores, were you surprised when you heard the verdict read in your son's case?
I don't know. Think about it. I was just hoping, it was not guilty, but it's just tough. It's really hard to say if they were my feelings were, and I'm just holding on. That's all.
Were you able to sleep throughout the trial?
Most of the time, but there's a lot of nights where you're always wondering and thinking about this and that. But what's tough is that the sheriff's department for 25 years, they say she's buried in the back of Susan's house, and they've had searches and everything, and then they say she's buried out there and someplace else. I don't know how many places she was buried. And then at the end they come to my house and says she was buried here. Well, it surprised me, and said I dug her up. I'm 81 years old, I don't do too much digging, I'll tell you, going under or anything, It's just so much stuff they made up and trying to get the jury. It was about feelings. It wasn't about facts. It was mostly about feelings, and I think that's what happened with my son. They were carried away with feelings about the family and the girl missing. Of course, everybody feels bad, when you have a daughter missing. So, but like I said before, I feel sorry for him because they didn't get no answers.
Did you get a chance to talk to Paul at all?
No.
Mr. Flores, with your trial over, Paul's trial over, what do you do now? Go back home and do what?
I don't know. Well, I just go home and don't have to travel up and down the coast just like you guys,
He's got to go home. He's got to rebuild a deck that was destroyed in a search for that was ultimately fruitless. And there's no way really to get restitution from the county for that because they operated in good faith. So
Poor baby.
there's a lot of things that he needs to do, but I think primarily he just needs to rest, and he is retired.
Always the misplaced priorities.
A lifetime in prison.
What I say about the publicity is the sheriffs and DA do, like when they came and arrested me, they woke me up and I look out the door and a lot of you were there and it was like a carnival, the SWAT team, the FBI, all the deputies, counting cars, counting trucks, newspapers, everybody's there, You even got a chance on,
Duh.
So what was your reaction when you were arrested?
I said, for what? And they didn't tell me. They just take me, you know. And I didn't find out what I was arrested for until I got fingerprinted. And I asked the guy, how come you're taking my DNA? And the deputy there told me why they're taking my DNA. I didn't know. They just take you. They don't give you much answers. We didn't. Well, of course they did. You know, but you go to trial or everything else, when they take you away in handcuffs and you got everybody there, they say that guy's guilty. You know, the neighbors think you're guilty. The people in the community are involved in different things, and you know, so.
Do you plan on staying in that Rio Grande, or do you plan on moving somewhere else to spend your life?
Why would I move? Why? I didn't do nothing. You know, I moved from someplace else to there, and that's a good place to live. You know, I'm not afraid of anybody. You know,
he built that house 31 years ago, and he's lived in it ever since. Raised his family in it. Why would he move? Again, no one seems to start from the perspective that the answer just might be innocent. That all of this conduct has been innocent, and they just jump the gun and go right to the guilty, go right for the juggler. Sure, if he's a guilty evil man, I wouldn't want to live next to him. I wouldn't want to represent him. He's not a guilty evil man. He's a kind, generous, innocent man.
Are you still talking with Susan, and why was she not in the book?
She's had medical problems, and she had some doctors today. She would have been here tomorrow, but today she just couldn't make it because
Mr. Flores, any thoughts on the podcast and the role it played in all of this?
Yeah, a lot, but I don't have enough time. You know, I mean, it's some of the things that were go out and find witnesses or stuff, or make up things, or get them going. I don't know. It's hard to describe. You have to sit down and think about it and write down things. But there's been a lot of bad stuff written, even in the newspaper. The editorial didn't do me no favors of the telegram, you know. But everybody wants somebody, you know. They want to hang somebody. Everybody. You still want answers. A lot of people, you know. So, like I say, that still fight tomorrow. The big fight going by Susan Sullivan, blowing a horn, and they'll be driving by my house. You know, just people. You know, they believe everything they read and everything they hear, or you know. Me, I got a flip phone. I don't listen to none of that stuff, you know.
Well, you guys want to stay, so there's that.
The people that are on there every day. And
your son was convicted.
Wound up, and, you know, they don't hang somebody, you know. So, you know.
I'm getting irritated with this interview.
I want to think about the questions and answers. I wasn't prepared for this.
Mr. Flores, do you see your son's attorney filing an appeal?
They're talking about it.
Of course he'll file it.
I just found out. And of course, so guy, you know, I'm active in community affairs, and I was coaching kids, and I've been an LP for 20 years.
Who cares?
The Moose Lodge. And
anyone can join the Moose Lodge, too.
And always been a good guy, you know. And they throw a curve at you one day, and it's take a while to get over it, but I'm 81, so I'm not going to worry about it.
I can't take it. They're always the
I
victim.
get to note that he's been wearing an ankle monitor since his release on bail, April 15th.
A year and a half.
A year and a half ago. So he has, and maybe this will satiate the mob a little bit. He has served what would have been his full sentence if he had been found guilty. So in my opinion, he still would have been released today even if he was found guilty, because he has spent more than 18 months on an ankle monitor. Double that for conduct credit. Maximum sentence is 3 years.
That would have really upset
people. So this is kind of anticlimactic, but I'm glad he got not guilty. So this was kind of anticlimactic, but I'm glad he got not guilty.
No.
Have you heard from Susan, and does she know
Susan's
the verdicts?
I'm sure she knows about the verdicts. Everybody in the world seems to.
I haven't had a chance to call her, but
yeah, we'll talk to her soon.
Yeah, I'll call her in a minute.
And it is very likely that Paul's attorney will file a motion for a new trial. There's several grounds, so you can probably expect that from Mr. Sanger.
Is there anything in particular that you think was...
Don't want to comment on that.
No, not on the appeal. But in your case, with the verdict, what do you think was the strongest evidence or what really swayed the jury?
And you saw this, and a lot of your commentators mentioned this. The funny thing about this case was, for the more serious charges, they had zero physical evidence. They had the dog alert, right? And the coincidence of being the last one maybe to have seen her. Obviously, somebody else saw her after him. In my client's case, they alleged they had biological evidence, and if the jury had found that sufficient, they would have found him guilty. So I'm very thankful the jury did not believe that the alleged blood evidence and the alleged bodily fluid evidence was in fact evidence of anything. I think they believed our version of it, which, if it was evidence of anything, it was certainly doubtful what it meant. And so I'm very pleased that this jury was diligent. They were committed. They showed up every day. They were fantastic. I gotta say,
no, they didn't.
Because I was reading this yesterday. When they walked in with the verdict yesterday, they wouldn't look at us. So I was really a little nervous about today. Didn't look at us again today, but then they ruled the right way.
As an attorney, do you think the funding for the dad is a defense for the son on appeal?
Yes, certainly. Because again, the prosecution's theory, although they several theories, the prosecution's theory is that the body was taken the night that, or the night after she died, and buried at his house. My jury didn't believe that, so certainly juries are finders of fact. So that's a fact that the jury has determined.
Misick will continue to represent Ruben in this civil matter. He explains that the burden of proof is lower, but he says there's no evidence of the story that's been woven. He says he understands the emotions behind it. And there's no word from Susan yet. Her attorney, Jeff Ratting, has no comment at this time. Sorry, I know that was a little bit long and irritating, but there was good insight there, especially the confirmation of an expected appeal, which we pretty much knew. But I like to hear it from the horse's mouths sometimes, you know. I wasn't expecting that to go so long, so I ran out of space for this video. So the community reactions and celebrations do continue. You can check the playlist for some snippets of the Shell Beach celebration that I was at. We already covered Cal Poly and some of their comments and reactions. In the next episode, I'll have comments from the Smart family's attorney, James Murphy, and his great satisfaction regarding Paul's verdict, and some other great quotes from him. What's next for Paul? Many are asking. Well, we knew and now heard to expect Sanger to appeal the verdict. On December 9th, 2022 at 9 a.m., Paul will face his sentencing in Salinas at the Monterey County Courthouse. He faces 25 years to life. The next video will also show the vendor fundraiser that I went to, and I'll tell you about meeting my hero, Chris Lambert. That was very exciting. And I just want to say again, good job, team. From the DA, the prosecution, all the staff involved, Chris Lambert, law enforcement, the Smart family, the sheriffs, James Murphy, their attorney. I'm just so proud of everyone that helped bring this day of justice. We'll say it again, justice delayed is not justice denied. Now let's find Kristin Smart. 26 years missing is far too long. Kristin has become a part of our community forever, and we will always support her family as well.
If I can't keep my head held high enough, I'll just be love and watch the smiles come.
Thanks for watching.
Bring my spirits up.
Don't forget to stop and smell the flowers.
There's some shit I like to fix, but I still